Hello and welcome. I am Dr. Lara May, a clinical pharmacist specializing in functional medicine, as well as a certified yoga teacher and Reiki master. I run a truly integrative health coaching practice encompassing functional medicine lab testing, yoga and meditation, and a sprinkling of Reiki energy medicine. Join me here on Light Body Radio to break through your health plateau and come into alignment with your natural vitality. Hello and welcome to Light Body Radio. I'm your host, Dr. Lara May. And today we have a special guest with us, Megan Johnson McCullough. She is the owner of Everybody's Fit, which is a fitness studio, and Mindful Bodies Recovery, which is a substance abuse treatment center in Oceanside, California. She is a doctor of health and human performance, an elite NASM master trainer, world champion natural bodybuilder, fitness model, and author of 11 books. She also has an app called Fit Pace for people in addiction recovery using exercise in their treatment program. She holds an MA in physical education and health science and is on the education advisory board for the Medical Fitness Network. She's also an executive certification board member for the National Exercise and Sports Trainers Association, and has served on the education task force for the National Academy of Sports Medicine. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to have you here and to talk about how exercise can help people in recovery. And maybe I feel like that's something that's probably not talked about that much when we talk about addiction recovery and that journey in general. So I'm really excited to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me too.
So I would love to hear about your story and how you came to be, merging these two specialties together.
Okay, sure. So I've had my fitness studio in Oceanside it will be 14 years now. And I started out long ago in the corporate world, right? And then I decided to open my own studio and to become a small business owner. And that became, all my dreams came true. Then when I decided to go back to school and get my doctorate, addiction recovery has always been something that has held a special place in my heart because I lost my mother to alcoholism. When I was 20, I found her dead on the bathroom floor. And from those experiences, I really have a passion, not only for helping people in the fitness world, but then those too in the addiction recovery space. Mm-hmm. So when I did my research study for your dissertation and defending all that, I researched the influence of exercise on specifically alcohol use disorder, but substance abuse as a whole. And from that, there's a lot of reasons that exercise can help someone be a tool during addiction recovery. So let's see. Towards the end of 2023, I was looking for something to kind of invest in, or, you have your financial advisor, they say, you should, get a rental or this or that. And I was kind of like, well, I don't even like to change a light bulb. I don't really want to get into this position of renting out to someone, and it sounds like a headache. And so I just kind of looked around at like, well, how could I need to find something that I might enjoy doing. And so I just honestly Googled, how to start a sober living. Because I thought, okay, well, if I'm going to have a rental, maybe I can make it like a sober living, and then I might connect with it and want to do it. And this pop-up ad came up. And it was this site called BizBuy, and there was a business for sale in Oceanside that was an outpatient addiction treatment center. And so I just clicked on it this looks interesting. And so one thing led to another, and I bought that business. So I had my fitness studio in Oceanside, but where my treatment center is literally next door is just like a block from the beach. And where I'm at now was a Pilates studio. As God will have it, the person at the Pilates studio did not renew her lease the same time that I was buying that business. So I literally moved my studio to a block from the beach and have my treatment center right next door. So everything just came together. Fitness and addiction recovery and my two businesses. So it was just a dream come true, and I've been here ever since. And just like anywhere else, the closer you get to the beach, kind of the more affluent it is and all those sort of things. So I really I made it closer and closer and closer to the beach, and now I'm a block from it, so it
Nice.
took a lot of years, but I was able to do that. So, my fitness studio, I focus on anything from, general weight loss to working with people with Parkinson's or cancer, anything on the medical spectrum as well. And then next door is the treatment center. It's outpatient. So that means that you can come based on the severity of your situation. There's two types of treatment. There's intensive outpatient, or there's partial hospitalization. So you might come for 3 hours, 6 hours a day. There's a lot that has to do with like what your insurance covers, all sorts of things as to what
Sure.
program is going to work for you. But that's what we offer. And oftentimes, it's not that I'm training the people that are at the treatment center. That it's two separate entities. But for whatever reason, a lot of my clients that come to me are in the addiction space or have been in recovery, and I just seem to draw that population to me. And so I may, in a one-on-one training situation, it could be three sessions into it, and then, I might say something talking about nutrition, like, well, how much alcohol are you consuming? Well, I've actually been in the program for, and so we just kind of connect in that way. Maybe they knew that about me or not when they were researching trainers in the area. So all that being said, now I'm here today, and I've been here since 2023, and it's just been really wonderful. And, my business in the fitness space has definitely grown, being in this different location. And then next door, I'm still really building the business after taking it over, and, getting into network with different insurances, and just really trying to market and brand all of those things. So that's a lot of work. And but I'm not necessarily hands-on with it, but I own it. So
Sure.
that's it.
So do you find that when clients are coming to your treatment side, the treatment center side of your business, do you find that they're ready right off the bat for that exercise piece, or like with intention bringing that in? Or do you find that it comes in maybe later on in the journey, or is it just different for everyone? I'm just curious about that.
Certainly, recovery in and of itself is an individual experience, right? Everyone has their own, past and present that they're dealing with. And exercise is utilized as a tool during recovery. So it cannot replace, it is not meant to replace any form of like behavioral therapy or medication management, or any type of, going to AA or NA or different types of group meetings and so forth. It is meant to be something that, as you are establishing abstinence from your substance of choice, your drug of choice, you are finding healthier outlets to fill spaces and time that were once spent, right, using or drinking. So that means that as you shift your environment, right, instead of going to happy hour, you're using that window of time now to go to the gym. So as you start to implement, more and more tools into your recovery, you do find that you have a lot more time on your hands now that you're not doing what you were doing once before. And how do you feel that? Well, you might be going to meetings, but you can also meet other people who are bettering themselves through exercise and using it as a tool in medicine in their own lives. So you're surrounding yourself with a different type of people, and exercise releases positive endorphins, So you're getting a sense of dopamine, but from a different source, right?
Yeah.
You're definitely improving your body image, which comes with, self-confidence, improved self-esteem. And that's a big part of recovery, right? You're embracing the new you that you're becoming. There's no more hiding behind something else. You are you. You can find, stress relief. You can find being able to deal with triggers, and doing so through exercise as a healthy outlet. And obviously, you know, you're kind of now you're finding something that you're doing to better yourself through exercise. And, it's not just about the physical improvement, but also the mental improvement. So it's just like a whole, you know, it's part of your transformation of who you're becoming. And
Yeah. Yeah.
before, you probably may or may not have been exercising, but if you were, exercise can deter you from having that hangover or, the next day after the fact using because you can't really get to your workout anymore. You're having to make different choices because of your incorporating your exercise routine. It encourages you to also make better nutrition choices too, because that they go hand in hand. And so it is medicine for your mind and body. And like I say, it's a tool. So it's not a replacement, because oftentimes when a person gets into recovery, especially initially, you can find that you're trying to find something to replace what you were once doing, So that could be something just like nicotine, it could be sugar. So exercise, you don't want to get into a place where exercise is now, time intensive, or you're, drawing away from your responsibilities, et cetera, because you can become addicted to exercise as well. So that's where something like the cell phone app that I created is for the general population, but also for people in recovery too, because sometimes we just need to be told, this is what you're doing today, and that's it. And if
Yeah.
you just do this today, that's it. Then it's one day at a time. You complete a program or you complete what you're doing. So, because it's very easy to, especially for a person who has, addictive qualities, to something as simple as, let's say they're starting to go to the gym, they're not using anymore, and they ride the elliptical. Well, the first time they ride the elliptical, it's for 15 minutes. Well, as they begin to increase their tolerance, just as they were with their substance, they're going to have to do it longer, right? And they're going to want more time to get the same effect. They might start to just, leave work early because they need to go, they're in this form of like, I have to go get that exercise in, or they might turn down, invitations, or stray away from relationships and responsibilities because now suddenly exercise has taken the forefront. So that's why you have to, what PACE stands for is proactive awareness of controlling excess. So if you know that that's the way that you go, yeah, I come up with that acronym. That's the way that you go, then you got to be proactive and get ahead, because you're aware that, okay, I need a control over this before it, reactive has gotten you into the place that you're in now.
Right.
So
Yeah.
let's not do that again. Let's learn from our mistakes and get ahead of the game. So that's the intention.
Cool. I love that. So, for those of you, all this will be in the show notes too. So you'll see a lot of these acronyms that we're talking about spelled out for you. But can you repeat the one for PACE again? PACE.
Proactive awareness, controlling excess.
Excellent. Beautiful. I love it.
Well, and the reason I came up with that was I was very fortunate that after I did my research study, a academic textbook company, I don't know how they asked me, we would like to use your research and create a textbook for colleges and higher education to use. And they said, but it has to be longer. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm like, all right, well, I don't really know, like, it is what it is. But they were like, okay, well, think about in your research study, it says like, future prospects or future forward. And I was like, okay, well, I guess I could come up with something that if we're going to talk about, using exercise, maybe I should talk about how we should use exercise to keep it in a healthy manner.
Yeah.
And that's just like, it was almost like a force. You have to come up with something. And then it was one of those things where it just flowed, like it came to me. And that it is what it is now.
Yeah, no, I love it. I also like that you said like your app too. I think that's, the whole concept of decision fatigue, whether you're in addiction recovery or maybe you're just a person out there with anxiety or ADHD or ADD, that decision fatigue can be a huge thing for a lot of people out there. And when you
Mhm.
have a tool that can just make the decision for you, like you said, like, tell me what I'm doing today so I can do it, get it done, and move on with the next thing, can be so helpful and so powerful. So I think that's awesome and amazing too.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So all of this is so fascinating. There was something else I was going to ask you now. It's kind of escaping me. But anyway, there's so much about exercise that is and does involve and encompasses mental health as well. Like most of us think of it, especially from like that maybe like level one superficial space of, oh, I'm doing it for my physical body. Like either I want to prevent disease, reverse disease, or look better, feel better, whatever it is. But really, once we get past, I would say like that first stage of learning what we're going to do, like whether it's in a class or going to the gym or a certain type of weightlifting or whatever the activity is, and we're more like in the flow with it, then I think that's where we can really dive into that mental health piece and teaching ourselves that we can do hard things. Like we can lift heavy things, we can do hard things, and we can feel better on the other side of it. And I
Right.
think that that's so valuable too, again, for especially this subset of people that are going through recovery, because I think as someone that has, like I still drink alcohol, but I've had an unhealthy relationship with it in the past. I definitely know that I've used it to escape and to avoid. And a lot of times when we think about escaping and avoiding, like what are we escaping and avoiding? Hard things or things that we construe in our mind as being hard. And, so like we're trying to avoid some sort of pain or like you said earlier, a trigger. So I don't really know if I have a question here, but chime in at any point.
Well, I think that certainly initially in your recovery, right, a lot of things you're in a vulnerable state, right? And so if you just have some concrete direction, something like that app or, hiring a trainer or some sort of accountability to it as well, but it's accountability that's like kept in the realm, right? But it's just like anything else. Like you could come to me and work out with me for an hour and tell me that's all the exercise that you're doing, but you might go home and excessively do something else. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So it's everyone has their individual relationship with substances, with exercise, with food, with so many things, right? And a lot of it is wrapped around mental health, right? Our emotions, our feelings. And I think that as you progress through anything and your initial start with exercise, as you learn that you can do hard things, I think that your goal setting changes too. As to you go from a place of like, okay, I just need to establish regularity with exercise and movement and incorporate that into my day, and then you'll find over time that you're liking what you're seeing, you're liking what you're feeling, and so you might change the goals from being just lifestyle general to like, okay, I think I want to try to you know lift heavier weights, or I want to try to maybe sign up for a half marathon and see if I might be able to train for something. For myself, that's where a lot of people, right, I exercise all the time, right? I excessively exercise. I do. It's what I do for a living. And a lot of people, you know, ask me, oh, do you still do competitions and so forth? And I do. I'm going to Bali in June for Team USA. I've got a competition in May in LA. And for me, the bodybuilding is what gives me a why and a purpose to my exercise. So because I do it all the time, right? I could just very easily go through the motions. Like, okay, 5-pounders, why not?
Mm-hmm.
But if I want to get something out of it, I have to have a goal in sight, a purpose for my, my why. And I think that, bodybuilding gives me that why and something to work towards and to have accountability in that way and to have a coach and all sorts of things. And I think that a lot of people with exercise need to establish their why and their
Mm-hmm.
purpose, or you can fall off. But again, you have to have realistic expectations and goal setting. Sometimes you might need someone to help you with that, to know what is truly attainable and what is not.
Sure.
So I think that there's a lot of information out there, and there's a lot of, fads that come and go. But I do think that, everybody is capable of incorporating exercise into their life. And it really does improve your mental health. And it is something that even if you don't have an unhealthy relationship with substances, it can help deter that.
Oh, for
Because
sure. Yeah.
you're focusing on improving yourself and bettering yourself, and it would seem silly to go to the gym for an hour and then go to the bar for an hour. I'm sure it can be done, but the two just don't go hand in hand. So
Right.
it's a good outlet.
Yeah, I mean, and just to bring in some more examples, I'll use a personal example of myself too. Like, as my relationship with alcohol has improved over the years, and also I've been a lifelong athlete, but again, that's waxed and waned with different things going on in life and how busy and hectic things are and priorities, all those things. But as I've gotten older, my body definitely metabolizes alcohol differently, and or it
Mhm.
hangs around longer. So even if I just have 1 or 2 glasses of wine, I'm most likely not going to sleep well. And then if I don't sleep well, then I'm going to be tired the next day, and I might still exercise, but it's probably not as productive as I really want it to be, especially if I'm working towards a goal. Like right now, we're sort of in shoulder season in Tahoe, like spring is coming, and
Mhm.
my husband and I are avid hunters, and so we train to hunt because we go out in the backcountry for days and days and days hiking and
Mhm.
hunting. You have to be in good shape for that, both physically and mentally, and so that's a multi-month process. And so even today we went out rucking, so just carrying a weighted backpack and hiking up some mountains, but knowing that if I hadn't slept well the night before, it would be either rough, not feel great, or like you're gonna be like
Mhm.
regretting what you did the night before. So I
Right.
totally agree. Like, you don't have to have an issue with any substance to still understand that, like you said, like having goals and then having this regular um, rhythm with exercise is very helpful for just moving through life. Resilience, I think, is a good word.
Mhm. Mhm. And I did not mention, and I should have, that the treatment center, we are um, one of the few that actually addresses dual diagnosis, meaning that we do address the mental health component of your, drug of choice or alcoholism, right? Whatever
Mm-hmm.
you've come to see us for, because you can't just treat an addiction. There's underlying issues that have brought you here, you
Oh, for
know.
sure.
And
Yeah.
if you just ignore that, the success rate of your recovery, it's going to falter because those will resurface,
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
And
Yeah.
like I say, that exercise is only a tool because, sure, you can avoid those underlying issues no longer with your substance, but let's say you're avoiding it now with exercise, eventually it's going to come back. So you really have to dig into the hard stuff and address, why you're here today and why you're having difficulty staying away from something,
Mm-hmm.
and that term resiliency is so important because you are resilient. You can do hard things. You just have to believe in yourself. And there's other people around you that certainly believe in you. But with any sort of person in recovery, I will never be able to convince you, or I will never be able to change you. It has to come from you.
Yeah.
And that is something that all people, I would say, I mean, I don't know anyone in this life who doesn't know someone who is struggling with
Sure.
some sort of addiction, right? And we might talk about it behind their back with someone else because we're too scared to bring it up to them, or we might mention it to them, but it doesn't matter anything else that's going on. It has to come from them. You can
Mm-hmm.
put someone in rehab and for 30 days, but 30 days is 30 days to them, whether they decide to do the work or not. You have to be ready. So there's a readiness for change.
Yeah.
And what it has to be that it's a decisional balance where it has to be that the pros, right, of not drinking outweigh the pros of drinking. So it's tough because you've lived a life where you've this is your norm, that you drink, that you do. I mean, that's your routine. It's habitual. And just like the simple saying of old habits die hard, it's difficult and it's a struggle. And the mental health side of it it's just critical. And I
Yeah.
think that it's putting your guard down and just kind of putting the pride away, the ego down, humbling yourself and saying, like, I need help.
Yeah.
And even, something like addiction treatment, that can even be coming to see me for personal training. It's reaching a point of like, I need help,
Yeah.
and if that's someone that, is obese, or that's someone that, I mean, I treat all sorts of people, right? So it could be someone
Mm-hmm.
who's going through a divorce and it's just like, I need help, like to feel better about myself, to do something about myself. There's all, I mean, it's mind, body, spirit, all of it. So there's a connection to be made. And exercise, it's a tool in everyone's life, and it doesn't have to be CrossFit or boot camp or anything extensive and hit and and all this
Right.
intense. It doesn't have to be that. And I think that's one of the part of the reason why people are drawn to me is because I really put in your mind that everybody can do some form of exercise. There's accommodations, there's modification, there's a way to do it. And oftentimes I get kind of aggravated when a client, let's say that they went to the doctor and they got like an MRI and they say, oh, you have this small little shoulder tear and, you shouldn't exercise for 6 weeks. And I say, can you please explain to them that you're coming to a trainer and that there's a million other things that we can do that do not
Yeah.
involve that area? But for whatever reason, a lot of people think that, and to all credit, yes, medical doctors, they take that and and I'm like, well, you got to explain that you're not going and doing, stations or boot camp or anything like that.
Yeah.
Exercise is medicine. And if you find that you stop exercising, I almost can guarantee you're going to get into a rut and you're going to start feeling poorly again. And it's just this downward spiral.
Yeah.
So
And not only
it's
that,
really,
but yeah, it'll like take you longer to heal from that whatever that injury is because you're not getting the blood flow and the stem cells and all the good things in it. Sorry. Yeah, I totally
yeah.
agree.
So but that, that brings like a whole new avenue of like, I really do feel that exercise should be prescribed. And I do think that for a lot of people, it should be covered by your insurance and so forth. Because if it's like, if you go, how many people go to the doctor and they're told that, they're obese and their BMI is too high and you need to start exercising or, eating right and healthy. And that's not that, doctors, right? That's not their scope of practice, right? They're just telling you, okay, that's what you should do, but they don't know how to tell you what to do, or that's
Exactly.
not their
Yeah. They don't,
area.
yeah, they have no idea
Well,
what to tell you how.
why can you be referred to a physical therapist for a broken or torn or whatever? Why can't you be referred to a personal trainer to help treat, obesity and type 2 diabetes and high triglycerides, high cholesterol? Those are all medical conditions that need to be treated too.
Mm-hmm.
But that's like a whole frustrating element topic that
Yeah.
um,
I agree. I'm
the
right there
only
with
way
you.
I've gotten around it is when people are able to apply like flexible spending on their
Yeah.
accounts, or what's the other one?
The HSA, the health,
HSA, yeah.
yeah, the health savings account. Yeah. So at least in some way, those two options have opened up a little bit. But even in the functional medicine realm that I'm in, it's still challenging because you have to, like with the FSA and the HSA, you still submit them for quote unquote approval. It's like, it's
Mm-hmm.
my money, damn it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, so let's talk about you. We didn't mention this before in your bio, but you mentioned it a little bit before for yourself that you are a bodybuilder. And
Mm-hmm.
but I noticed in your bio that you say you're a natural bodybuilder. Like, what is that? How is that different? And why do you want
Okay.
to specifically bring that word into the descriptor?
Okay. Well, when I was training years ago, a lot of clients would always say, well, how come you don't do like, bodybuilding or something like that? Like, you're so fit, you'd be really good at it. And I was always just like, that's not something that I think I want to tap into, because my understanding from where I was working and who I was working with, that bodybuilding was something where you had to use performance enhancing drugs, right? I got caught up in, because of the addictive qualities that I have, like fat burners and all sorts of stuff like that in my early 20s. And I literally had like a purse of like 20 pills that I would take, right? Because I thought, I mean, I can't, like everything, like stuff to make me go to the
Mm-hmm.
bathroom, all, the whole slew
Oh
of it.
yeah, yeah.
And um, for me, it was like, okay, well, if I start doing that kind of bodybuilding, I'm going to get, that's like the dark side I'm going to get into, because once I start something, if you look around, like I can't do anything in moderation. So that's a slippery slope for me. And I don't think I really want to do that, but I didn't express that.
Mm-hmm.
But then one of my coworkers had said, well, there's like natural bodybuilding. And I'm like, no, I don't know that. What is that? He just said, well, it's basically you have to eat healthy and you got to train hard, and they drug test you at the shows. And I go, oh, okay, well, I mean, that seems kind of cool. And he was like, there's like a show in San Diego in like 3 months. You should do it. And it was like Christmas time. So I was like, I've never made like outward like New Year's resolutions, but I was like, oh, I could make it like a corny New Year's resolution. I'm going to sign up for this competition. So I literally signed up for it in like late December, and it was in March, and I did really well right away. And I won, I got my pro card, and then that just transpired into not being able to do it in moderation, right? But at least I didn't tap into, performance enhancing drugs, because, and
Mm-hmm.
you can see all of that. But, even recently, a girl in her 20s, she passed away from using those. And there's a type of bodybuilding where you would have to use those in order to even step on the stage to have any sort of chance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Compared to people next to you. So that's like the typical, like Arnold Schwarzenegger, what you see on TV, kind of, and then there's, which, to no discredit, you still have to work hard. Like, you still have to train,
Oh,
you
for
still have
sure.
to,
Yeah.
practice the pose. Like, it's a whole thing. It's just it's a different approach, and it's a different environment.
Yeah.
And natural bodybuilding, that's why I look the way that I do. I'm lean, I'm muscular, all of those things, but I'm not, my shoulders aren't popping out and my veins aren't, out of my head, kind
Right.
of thing, because I can't use anything.
Yeah.
Um, so And honestly, it would be almost counterintuitive for me to do that and then own a treatment center and do all the things that I
Right.
do, right?
Well,
So,
I think you're setting a really great example, especially for women. The more, excuse me, the more we start to sort of talk out loud about how much muscle mass is important to female health, because I feel like for the longest time it especially like in the 80s and 90s it wasn't talked about. It was,
mhm,
like cardio yourself to death was
right,
was essentially like the way that if you were a woman then you would quote unquote get in shape. But I still have clients that come to me and they say, well, when I talk about diet and exercise with them and I tell them, like you need to lift heavy things, we need to make sure that you're maintaining muscle mass as you get older, making sure that you're eating enough protein. And they're like, yeah, but I don't want to look like a bodybuilder. And
mhm,
I'm like, do you
mhm,
know, like you would have to like work out so hard and so long to look anything like these competitive athletes. and,
right.
and then like layer on top of that any performance enhancing substances. And like don't even worry about that. Like let's just, if we can, like get that out of your mind altogether and just focus on that feeling strong, like having that
Right.
nice proportion of muscle mass to body fat, which is, I think a really good like first step and entry level for a lot of women.
Yeah, and what you're saying is true that of the, the 80s and 70s and even 90s that strength training wasn't being practiced. That's why I'm now getting clients in their 70s and 80s saying my doctor's saying that osteopenia, osteoporosis, I need to start
Mm-hmm.
doing this. So now we're being reactive, right? Instead of the whole
Yeah.
proactive. Um, and I don't know how many times I get this. It's like a backhanded compliment, but it's like, yeah, I know that I need to start lifting weights and, I'd like to be more toned, but but I don't want to look like you. And it's like, okay.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
I
Okay.
promise I won't make you look like me. Like, and I always say, it's not really, your goal is different than mine. And you do not have enough testosterone in your body naturally to be able to achieve that type of muscularity anyways. So don't
Right.
worry.
Yeah.
But even in the settings, like a lot of women, like they won't use like anything past 8 pounds. Like they just won't. And
Yeah.
that's just, it's something that's been ingrained. And future generations, what you're seeing, what's the pattern now though is a little bit, so I have clients, I most of my clients are the senior population. That is kind of my niche, but I also gravitate towards younger as well. I seem to get a lot of younger that are got some mental health stuff going on too. And so mom, dad say, okay, you gotta, we need some help. And so I do that. But the younger generation, I'm not sure where this came from, but it's called thick fit. And so they are lifting really, really heavy weights, like
Mm-hmm.
lifts, clean and press. I mean, bench press, right? There's no cardio, nothing like that. And so they go in and they're like thick with cellulite, and they wear short shorts and crop tops. And that is what the younger generation right now is embracing. And so health wise, that's not, to go, let's say a Southern California thing would be to go do your bench press and max out and then go eat a carne asada burrito. That would be what these kids are doing. And that's not
Mm-hmm.
really, they're not understanding the relationship with exercise and all of that.
Right.
Um, so it's kind of different. And I get parents who come to me with that concern. And part of me is like, well, gosh, wouldn't it be nice to walk around like that and feel that great about yourself in those clothes?
For
Like there's part of
sure.
me that's like,
Yeah.
there's some confidence going on there though that a lot of us don't even have today, but it's just completely different. So in terms of like generational though, I mean, they're lifting heavy now. So I wonder if the rates of
That'll be
osteoporosis
interesting.
will be
Yeah.
different in the future where that goes. Um, but it, I mean, strength training is just something that it benefits you in so many different ways. And for me, I tell a lot of people, especially that get caught up on the scale number or, because I work with a lot of middle-aged older, I always remind them that strength training I take, you know, their assessments and measurements. I always do inches because I say, look, like circumference measurements, because I go, look, weights are going to change your body. It's going to reshape your body. This scale, it's going to move. It's not going to ever move as fast as you want it to move, especially menopause, you know, all of those types of hormonal factors. I say, but I guarantee you will get smaller. You will shape your body. You will get tighter. You will get more toned. I promise all of those things. And sometimes I have to prove that, you know, after 4 weeks, and then take those inches again. And you know, they'll be like, well, I haven't lost any weight, blah, blah, blah. And then, hey, look, you lost, you know, and so just to teach the lesson that, you know, what you see in the mirror is so important. And it's not, you know, your weight is like your relationship with gravity. It's not, you know, but I understand, like, I don't even weigh myself because it's just such a mind F, like whether it's 0.2 pound, you know, higher than it was yesterday. So it's, you know, tough. So you can go run on the treadmill for hours and hours and do the elliptical and all of that. But what's really going to change your body are weights. And understanding that and kind of reteaching that or teaching that at all to someone is challenging.
Yeah, well, like reinforcing that the more muscle mass you have, the you know, higher your basal metabolic rate will be. You'll burn more calories at rest. You know, like it changes how your body metabolizes whatever it is you're eating, and then, you know, and then of course, you know, like helping them balance their macros, and whatever that looks like for them, whatever based on whatever their goals are, of course. So, but yeah, I mean, I do find that we're in a very interesting time right now with. It's like a re-education of, especially I think on the feminine side of this field, which I think is exciting and a good thing. No matter, again, like no matter where you are at what age as well, because I think it's going to benefit all of us, you know, at some point when we get to a certain age. Like if you're young and you're already picking up on what we're talking about, then great, keep going. But if you're, you know, like in your late 30s, early 40s, and you're just getting into, you know, maybe implementing some sort of heavier strength training, that's fine too. And or if you're even like considered older, whether it's 60s, 70s, even 80s, that's great too. So there's really no, I don't think, a bad time to start.
Correct.
Yeah. Cool. Well, this has been really fascinating. Tell us where people can find you and all of the things that you want to send
all the goodies.
To.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's see. On Instagram, it's dr.megan_everybody's BODYS fit. My website is everybody'sfitoceanside.com. Facebook, it's just Megan Johnson McCullough. And I have my business page, Everybody's Fit. In terms of the treatment center, got Mindful Bodies Recovery on Instagram and mindfulbodiesrecovery.com website, and then just Mindful Bodies Recovery on Facebook. So those are all the ways to do that. And you could always message me or email me at everybody'sfit@gmail.com. So those are all ways that you can be in contact with me. And it's also important to know that as much as I'm not a technology person with all this AI, I think you still got to do some things yourself. One of the silver linings of COVID was that I have clients all over the world now, Dubai, Texas, everywhere, that we can do some FaceTime trainings, just like you and me being in the same room. So if you don't feel comfortable going to a gym, it can be you and I in your living room, so I can help you no matter where you're at, or just create a plan for you to follow and be accountable to. In terms of my cell phone app, FitPace, it can be found in the the Play Store on your phones. And then all of my books are on my Amazon author profile, so it would just be Megan Johnson McCullough, and you can find all the fun books that I've written there.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much. And I mentioned this earlier, but we have a show notes page. So all of these links will be there. So whether you want to find Megan on YouTube or Facebook or TikTok or Instagram, we're going to list them all. So whatever your social media of choice is, we will have a link there. And that's at drlaramay.com/podcasts. And just look for Megan's episode. Thank you so much. Anything else that we didn't touch on or that you want to like wrap up before we say goodbye?
I just want to thank you for letting me be a guest today.
Yeah, no problem. It was wonderful. And I really appreciate your time and all of your wisdom and expertise. And I want to thank you for the beautiful work that you're doing in the world, because I can tell that you're helping a lot of people. So thank you.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Well, we will catch you on the next episode. And as always, you can find Light Body Radio wherever you listen to podcasts. And we love to hear your feedback, comments, questions. So definitely hit us up and we will do our best to address whatever you want to hear about next. We will catch you on the next episode.